collection. When I find out who was responsible for this, I will end them! Whoever this is not a good time. You! Oh, you have done it this time, King of Thieves. You have crossed the wrong reviewer. Catch it!
Let's go! 輝くマシンライダージャンライダーキン仮面ライダー仮面ライダーライダーライダー
Once again, yeah, this is not technically Tokusatsu by the strict definition, but I talk about live-action adaptations of Japanese works of the show, so there you go. That said, what the hell is this? Seriously, I want to know. Look, I am a very passive fan of Lupin III, which is celebrating its 50th anniversary this year.
The series is a manga, then later an anime, beginning in 1967 by Kazuhiko Monkey Punch Kato, which chronicles the adventures of the grandson of the gentleman thief Arsène Lupin, from the novels by French writer Maurice Leblanc.
And you can do that because, at the time, Japan did not enforce trade copyright. By the time Maurice Leblanc's estate found out the name had entered common use, and at this point doesn't matter as the man's novels have fallen into public domain regardless. Remind me again, why can Japanese companies go after fair use productions when many of their business models are literally created from actively stealing from other creators? Though it is hilarious that the world's greatest thief was created by literally stealing his name.
Each story contains an exploit of his to get ahead through thievery and treasure hunting, alongside his cohorts, the ace gunman Jigen, the duplicitous and wily Fujiko Mine, the legacy swordsman Goemon Ishikawa XIII, and all the while chased by Inspector Zenigata, a bumbling but driven police officer that, despite his failures, is the only cop on the planet capable of keeping up with Lupin and his gang. And while they are mostly out for themselves, the lot, Lupin especially, constantly show that they have good hearts in the Robin Hood, steal from the rich and not inconvenience the downtrodden kind of way, and often lose their goals if it would cost those in worse straits, or are being victimized by their targets. Lupin is the ultimate thief with a heart of gold.
At least in the anime. The original manga, which concluded in 1981, not so much. But the character still pops up with regularity, and the character remains quite popular. In fact, the original Lupin anime is noted as being one of the first animated series ever to intentionally target an adult demographic. It is included in Japan's cultural registry as having historical relevance, and is listed as one of the best anime ever made.
Also, fun fact, Goro Naya, Kamen Rider's the great leader of Shocker and all its successor organizations, is most known for playing Inspector Zenigata, holding the role from the original Lupin anime for over 40 years until he finally handed over the role to Koichi Yamadera in 2011, 2 years before his death.
I've mainly seen the anime OVAs, TV specials, and movies that Funimation has imported, but I can tell you, the series is just zany fun.
And I guess I have a soft spot for Lupin as, even when it's more dark and mature like its original series, it's all done with a tongue-in-cheek and comedic vibe that nonetheless remains grounded. Thus, since there's a consistency of tone across all of its entries, there's less off-putting about it being silly than, say, a series where its leads face a serious cataclysmic threat, and then everyone acts like nitwits solely for the sake of bad, pandering down to the lowest common denominator comedy. Plus, the entire heist and criminal mystery sect work when the characters are acting intelligent and clever, working to outwit each other, so I don't have to deal with stupid characters unless the show itself has devolved into being imbecilic. And while it's not something I can watch constantly, I have fewer criticisms towards it than other material, as the common things that piss me off are less prevalent.
So, yeah, I like Lupin just fine and would really recommend the series if you're into heist movies or the like. But why did it warrant a live-action movie in 1974?
Hell, why did it warrant another one in 2014? One that everybody hates. I could literally find nothing about this film's background past it being imported in 2006 by Discotek Media, who's brought over a lot of the franchise alongside Funimation.
And from this, I want to see more of Discotek's import library now, as they did a stellar job in translating this movie. Hell, the DVD case even comes with a "in case you're new to this series" pamphlet that's really informative, and I give them special props for that, and being aware not everyone that might pick up this movie is already going to be a fan.
Anyways, Lupin III, Strange Psychokinetic Strategy, was the first attempt to give Lupin an originating backstory for his various adventures, and it's far from the last.
The woman called Fujiko Mune being technically another, as was the Episode 0 special and the 2014 movie, which sucked despite Gao Silver and the Spider-Orphan for not being in it, and well, frankly, Lupin's one of those characters that I don't think needs an origin story. We have an idea of his background, we know the main cast, the fun of the series is the situations they're thrown into. You don't really need much more than that for it to work.
If I'm going to have a past, I prefer it to be multiple choice.
I mean, I'm not against the idea of looking into how the characters came together the first time and built the character dynamics, but that origin pretty much shanghais the film's plot.
So, what? Half of the movie is the origin, the other half is the actual strange psychokinetic strategy? Well, no. Try 75%. Yeah, 3/4 of the film is tied up in the origin, and they strangle out what you assumed was going to be the A-plot to the point the title is kind of a lie.
The movie begins with our Lupin for the film stealing a car and, by going out on a drive, catching sight of a pretty lady in a jailer's truck. I'll comment on this in a moment. But since he's daydreaming, what would he know happens when he crashes his car? Only to be hit on by the other driver?
Seriously, this is a running gag in this film. Because damn it, everything is gay about this!
Yeah, apparently the queer people are funny stereotype jokes found in Japanese media date pretty damn far back. He makes an attempt to break her out, only to be clotheslined by a banner.
Bernard! I hate Bernard!
The following evening, straight out of nowhere and without showing how he did it, he breaks the woman out of prison and defeats the guards with insane jumping ability?
Talk about hang time! I wonder if he plays basketball.
They escape the prison proper by playing off of Lupin's greatest skill of subterfuge. And with that, Lupin wants a kiss for his troubles.
What? It was a blade suit.
And why is he standing after being knocked out?
Okay, there have been 3 of them now. I should probably address this. There's a significant issue with this film's adaptation of the source material, and it's mainly in how it retains the over-the-top sight gags as a series of superhuman powers.
Well, yes, the manga and anime are known for him performing seemingly superhuman feats. Usually they're for the purposes of a comedic sight gag, which are made possible by the medium. They're never more than exaggerations of the setting in such instances, which makes them little different than, say, lightning clashing between 2 people glaring, or someone's head going gigantic as they become overcome with rage, or the setting behind someone as they make a dramatic statement changing to reflect the passionate mood being presented, or everyone suddenly pratfalling in a moment of exasperation or surprise, or even the nosebleeds coinciding with perverted thought.
The consistency between them in all these cases is they are placing more emphasis on an action, reaction, or occurrence through its exaggeration, and it is all due to the limitations of the animated and sequential art mediums, with regards to what you can actually capture for the time and budget given and the ability of the artist. When you have an actor on screen, if they're doing their jobs right, then the emotions and reactions are depicted through their tones, tics, facial expressions, and body language, which makes such exaggerations unnecessary, on top of them visually looking very out of place. Thus, why they're usually excluded from such medium transfers and adaptations, as there are other ways to depict that appropriately in live action. And this movie is not really doing that.
Which is a problem as, in spite of their presence, Lupin is a surprisingly grounded series despite the comedic exaggerations. Making them supernatural powers Lupin possesses simply to retain such visual sight gags completely undermines depiction of the character, as Lupin does not possess superpowers. He's just really smart and able to think faster and further ahead than almost anyone he ends up going against.
And it's weird they retain this for a lot of these moments in the movie since, as also shown thus far, they are more than capable of doing other sight gags that don't require Lupin to have superpowers. And there are a lot of jokes in the movie that sell themselves simply from dialogue and the actor's expressions. These don't break the movie, mind you, but it's not a model I feel they should have followed.
Anyways, as he was KO'd, Lupin is captured and interrogated by who else but Inspector Koichi Zenigata and his subordinates, who tell him he's under arrest for assisting in the escape of Fujiko Mune.
Beginning the flirting cat-and-mouse romance the two have with each other. Because damn it, everything is gay about this.
But because Lupin's always a step ahead of almost everyone, he talks his way out of being arrested, saying he was just passing through, and got KO'd by the escaping Fujiko, which is all true. Help that, well...
警部、残念ながら看守たちはあまりの早業で誰一人として犯人の顔を覚えていないそうです。以上。
Bah! That's never stopped the Japanese legal system before. Come on! Close the book, throw him in the cooler, go up and down on his ass!
This is where we meet Lupin's right-hand man, Daisuke Jigen, as he comes to a priest looking for Lupin, which gives us all his backstory as a troublemaking perverted brat from birth, who was left at a Christian orphanage?
In Japan, where that religion makes up such a low fraction of the population that the billionaires in America make up a higher percentage of the population than the number of Christians in that country.
Yeah, this is a massive wasted opportunity, as this all comes straight out of left field just to give this exposition. It does not flow naturally from the movie's narrative to give this backstory or Jigen's introduction in this manner.
Honestly, how I would have handled it would have been through Zenigata releasing Lupin, then have his aides, which otherwise do absolutely nothing in the movie, barge in too late to stop him after they got the files on Lupin, and reveal all of this about him, making Zenigata realize he just let off scot-free and he's the bigger criminal than Fujiko, and have the film play off of that reaction for comedic gold.
Made worse by how they actually do that reaction from him later, in a way completely disconnected from the story that's used to motivate him to catch Lupin after the fact, instead of the more immediate pain of him just slipping through his fingers. A bigger problem with the introduction of Jigen is, well, how reactive he is to all of the nonsense. The thing with Jigen is, to contrast Lupin's insane stunts and jollier attitude, Jigen is the straight man in their comedy duo, never losing his cool and so inundated to the zaniness he never bats an eye. In a single word, Jigen is...
hard-boiled.
Help that in a lot of the anime I've seen of the series, Jigen's dub voice actor is either Chris Sabat, using the same voice he utilizes for Piccolo in Dragon Ball and Zoro in One Piece, or Richard Epcar, Bato from Ghost in the Shell, both of whom are absolute perfect casting with their performances in playing to Jigen's straight man role.
And you get none of that from the film. It's understandable as he hasn't been inundated to Lupin's, well, Lupinness, but he varies wildly in his reactions that make him a lot more emotive than he should be, it only being in the parts of the film related to the A-plot that he moves back farther into that role. Anyways, Jigen is looking for Lupin as, from a convoluted series of events, he just discovered the man's existence. While Lupin's granddad was the gentleman thief he takes after, His immediate father took his criminal genius into organized crime, building an empire set to take over the world.
I'll call it Nova Shocker. Hello? What do you mean we're being sued for ripping off Foundation X?
However, upon attempting further expansion, they were destroyed from the inside by planted agents part of the Macaron family, leaving Jigen the sole loyal member, and because he discovered Lupin, now so has the Macaron's agents, meaning he needs to find Lupin to protect him, so he in turn can rebuild the Empire. Only one problem with that.
こっち向きな。こうかい?
Yeah, don't try that, Lupin. He's too fast for you.
Where the hell were you hiding that?
You really don't want to know.
お前っていくつ鉄砲持ってるんだい?
Wow, you must have been popular with the French resistance.
Yeah, the actual problem is Lupin has absolutely no desire to build an empire. As far as he's concerned, he already owns Japan. He can go anywhere, do anything, because he's free to pursue it. The squalor of camping out in a construction yard, no different than lounging in a 5-star hotel, as long as it fits his fancy at the time. This moment does a lot to present and sell the underlying romanticism of the character that is certainly one of his most appealing aspects. Zenigata's goons track the pair here, and what ensues can only be described as a Scooby-Doo chase on crack, as they pretty much just keep the camera stationary and massively speed up the footage of them chasing Lupin around the place, with the lot of them not realizing Lupin's running circles around them by not running circles around them.
I personally like the amusement of Scooby-Doo chases. I grew up watching reruns of that show. They're great opportunities for sight gags. I slowed down the footage to watch it at a more normal pace, and there are some really good ones in there, so I don't get why they did that, especially since they were already being lazy about the no other camera angles thing for the majority of the chase.
Well, they meet back up at a hotel, only for Jigen to find that Lupin gave away all the furniture that the hotel owned, because he didn't feel its aesthetic. Problem was, hidden in that furniture was documentation which would have allowed Lupin to gain his family's fortune. He thinks it's no big loss, as he catches sight of Fujiko waiting for him, the woman somehow having found him, and the two go off to the seaside to continue with their flirting.
ダイヤが欲しいの。
いいと。
オパールもサファイアもルビーも欲しいの。
いいと。いい。
And had you gotten that deposit, you could have just bought her all of that.
Thus, Fujiko prompts him to go in with her in a diamond heist for jewels part of a new exhibit, needing his genius to get the goods. Lupin agrees, in exchange for a kiss.
Ouch.
旦様の信条だ。では、本格的に、イヤホー。
Yeah, I know that was the coming punchline, but seriously? He was going to... You know what? Drop the pretense. He was seriously going to rape her after knocking her out? What the hell?
Look, Lupin is admittedly a lech, and it's not unheard of him to literally jump out of his clothes to get with a woman. The problem is, even when it's a fake-out, the implication is always that of, he's going to go at it with someone giving their consent and has a semblance of chivalry.
Granted, that's the anime-based characterization of him that has these merits, which has allowed him to withstand the test of time, versus the original manga's take that is more crude and remorseless, which this could certainly more be borrowing from. But since it's the only joke that has this element to it, I'll ask again. What the hell?
これ一体どうやって帰りゃいいのよ。
シャーロック・ホームズに続いて第2の奏者が帰ってまいりました。さあ果たしてどの選手でしょうか。手に輝くゼッケンはおっとなんと L の文字がくっきりものすごいスピードです。
Please. The only way L would beat Sherlock in a race is if the prize was cake and he stole Robert Downey Jr.'s narcotics.
However, even as he sets up this plan, Fujiko is always one to play both sides against the middle. So even as Lupin and Jigen make the heist possible with Lupin's affinity for subterfuge done by playing into expectations...
The monkey punch, ladies and gentlemen.
Anyways, she cons him for going for just one last save.
I gotta try that sometime. Wait, no, that one summons the cursed wave. Curse you, Lupin!
Well, this is far enough for Zenigata to then try and grab him, using that to then raid their escape vehicle for the gems and pin everything solely on them.
違う。俺の藤子ちゃんはそんな女じゃない。
何よ、藤子って。あたいは浅間山子よ。
Cut to Mount Asama,
I get it!
where we finally get back to the Macaron agents being briefed by their boss, Dr. Claw.
Oh, so they're fighting mad. I guess that makes Zenigata Inspector Gadget.
While they formally put out a hit on Lupin to prevent him from reviving his dad's empire.
And thus fall into the age-old trap of causing the exact thing you were trying to prevent by actions you didn't need to take as you ignored the character of the individual you end up wronging.
なお、このビデオテープは自動的に爆発する。
I get it!
Thus begins the siege of Assassin's Creed.
The fuck was that?
何？どうなったんだか全然わからない。
My god, the movie has become self-aware. Save me, Wade Wilson!
Yeah, this is where more of his superpowers come into play. First showing off the ability to clock up, and then, as more assassins come after him, he turns invisible?
なんだよあれ。
Article 175. Yes, of course I have a copy of Japanese law. It's how I know my reviews are fair use even by their statutes. Anyways, a person who distributes, sells, or displays in public an obscene document, drawing, or other object shall be punished by imprisonment with work for no more than 2 years or pay a fine of not more than 2.5 million yen. So, wait, by him being removed from the film because of that article, Lupin just escaped his own assassination through the manipulation of Japanese law. My god, he is Japanese Deadpool.
Well, after a female assassin musical number, dear god do I miss the Kamen Rider girls right now, Lupin decides to just turn himself in to get the Macharones off his back, and considering his existing crimes, he'll likely be summarily executed, meaning the crime family can cancel their hit and move on to their real plan. Stealing a priceless Dogu statue.
It has the power to fire cannonballs made of energy and becomes the leg of a giant robot.
Actually, it's what gives the movie its name, as it apparently releases some form of psychokinetic energy that scientists wish to study, the Macaron planning to take it when it is en route with its police escort. Fujiko, in a quite unrealistically convenient fashion, overhears this entire plan, only to be captured. And because she was captured, Jigen suddenly knows of this so as to use it to motivate Lupin into actually quarreling with them and stealing their prize.
Which, an hour into the film, finally plays into the Lupin formula that most of the movies and series end up doing. Lupin stealing a priceless artifact or riches from actually corrupt/evil people, rescuing Fujiko when her manipulations leave her in over her head due to karma, and Zenigata trying to stop him.
Which he fails at immediately by not being able to stop Lupin's escape, but makes up for it with far more competency in his standoff defending the Dogu statue, which has been sealed in a damage-resistant metal case that unsurprisingly can be abducted right from amongst the two forces by Jigen flying a helicopter with a magnet hanging off of it by a string.
It's cartoon logic, just roll with it.
Zenigata succeeds in nabbing all the criminals in the confusion, all the while Lupin's found out Fujiko's location and goes to rescue her, while knocking out one of the supports of the base, leading to them almost falling to their deaths as it begins to slip from its precarious perch on a cliff to fall into the ocean, only for timing and karma to save them by Jigen passing by with a copter so they can hang off the Dogu statue's case all the way to the research facility the statue was originally headed to. Meaning, in lieu of the police, Lupin has now been credited with saving a priceless historical relic and national treasure from being stolen by thieves.
I played the Alanis Morissette clip, but apparently I went over quota with it last year.
Still, this leads to the final indignity of the movie. Zenigata's attempts to arrest Lupin were apparently against orders about finding evidence to justify nailing Lupin to the wall, meaning there's nothing but circumstantial evidence that Lupin even is a criminal, and thus nothing preventing him from being given a formal letter of gratitude from the government for his heroics, which Zenigata has to deliver in person. Cue misunderstanding chase scene to close the film!
Strange Psychokinetic Syndrome is definitely a 70s film.
While the characterization is off at times, it does nail down the group's character dynamics quite well for an origin story. Everyone involved is an excellent actor that do play into the written roles, and for the most part do pull off that comedy, even if the action and choreography are, well, this was released 2 years after Kamen Rider had started airing, and by this point they were doing a lot of this better with their television budgets, as opposed to this production, which was produced by Toho. I feel the movie is hurt by the comical exaggerations when they weren't needed in the medium transfer, and the focus on them as part of the origin story did crowd out what could have been an interesting heist and story focus, since the A-plot Mafia and the B-plot First Meetings aren't well integrated into each other, and the stuff with the Machirones feels really tacked on to the end to even give it a point. A lot of the strengths of the movie is in its wordplay and sight gags that, sadly, because I'm a reviewer summarizing it all down, I skipped a lot of. So outside of a few awful ones I spotlighted and some of the abstract humor, it is a decent time. I wouldn't really rate it high for a Lupin adventure, though. My personal go-to for that being the 2000s dub of Castle of Cagliostro, the one starring David Hayter and Bridget Hoffman, or Bye Bye Liberty Crisis, which I can more strongly recommend for those wanting to see the series.
I'd only recommend this film to the hardcore Lupin fans who probably get more out of this than I do since, again, I've been limited to the movies and specials. But if you had the option of this movie or the 2014 one, then for the love of God, watch this one. Well... Gee, I wonder what this could be. Because of course.
Right. That devil stole something precious and priceless. Your heart, my lady.
Yes.